Hello everyone, Connor Whitmore here again with another video for you on the Nawtystep channel, and it's time for another Extra Nawties monthly roundup. Gonna go over some EPs, albums and compilations that I wasn't able to review in full, but which I still thought interesting enough to share my opinions on them with you. Shorter reviews because there's a lot to get through, so I will just be identifying my main points with each one, and hopefully showing you a couple of things that you hadn't heard of before. Stuff released on the 29th of October and after will not be reviewed in this video, but the next one. Some of the releases in this video are actually from the end of September. And the releases are covered in alphabetical order by way of artist name or record label name if it's a compilation, and are all linked in the description box down below. Lastly, and as per, there will be a small list of special mentions at the end of the video that I couldn't talk about here because then there would just be too many, but definitely check them out as well. And so, kicking off this latest installment, we have the new EP from BREDREN, Inferno. Put simply, if you're one for industrial drum and bass music, then this one is for you. Really nice mix of cool, low-key delivery and quite harsh, grainy stuff. It gets the mix right and it's built really well. The final cut in particular, Undress, I find to be a sweet blend of elements, especially with that smooth vocal. Could have been a little more subtle with a couple of the ideas, but mostly a very nice listen. Great atmosphere to it. Yeah, this one isn't quite for me. I've enjoyed some Chib stuff this year quite a lot, but this one doesn't have quite the same impact. Some really awesome sounds layered on top from him as per. Vocal sampling across the board is really good as well. But a lot of the percussion is so flat that the drop ideas don't have quite enough punch to make them great. So they end up sounding actually quite miserable. Nice stuff on top, as I said, but the backdrops just do not support the invention of the EP. Many of the ideas I'm not too big on here. A lot of the production is a bit too fuzzy, grainy, not clear enough. Some interesting stuff on songs like Chariot, Melt, Dead Companion, etc., which I'm sure others will like, but they're not entirely for me. Motive, the interlude, is probably my favourite on the whole thing. The rest I find a bit ordinary, really, not offering much all that new, not enough range, or stuff making me want to go back to it. I appreciate the general energy and theme of it, but more than anything, an LP of moments and not whole songs, in my opinion. Next up, the new Decimate EP. The percussion in the heaviest moments is good here, interesting sounds and samples, but the ideas for me aren't all that. In spite of that, I really do like the way it winds this way and that. The general bounce of the EP is quite infectious. Track 3, Booty Bass aside though, that one's just a bit all over the shop. Second half I prefer more generally than the first, but one of the more interesting and engaging Black Label EPs that I've heard this year. Then we have the new Dubloadz EP, and this seems more experimental and more fun from him again, and yeah, that is very welcomed. Still significant parts here that aren't there at all on the execution and are quite jarring, meaning the drops aren't fully felt. But this does seem to be him breathing life back into Dubloadz. He's trying things out, and that's cool. Nothing special I wouldn't say, but it's a far cry from the lifeless dubstep that he dropped last year. It's colourful Dubloadz and I like it. I have loved Dusty Cloud stuff over the last couple of years, and this EP really does build on that adoration. 3 earthy, groovy, immersive house numbers that are pretty hard to tear yourself away from, magnetic stuff. It's exactly what his music is best for, marrying warmth and darkness perfectly. Another top project from him right here. And now on to Figure, and I have to be honest, I haven't really enjoyed the most recent Monsters projects all that much, but this one I find to be a bit better. I know it's about painting a horrific picture, but at the end of the day, it's about the music, and this one just seems sharper. My favourites would have to be Madhouse with Code Pandorum and Vampire Hunter. That middle section of the album I find to be particularly good. The intro is also fantastic, but also a fair few that prize the loudness of the dubstep over the idea. The vast majority of the album actually. But it is interesting to see how the volumes have progressed through changes in dubstep production, genres, etc. A series that I will always be fond of. Another collection here where there isn't one song I enjoy here entirely, but I've definitely heard worse from them before. Still very skeletal, weak production across the board, but their ideas have more of a charm and direction to them than usual. It's like they've suddenly become slightly aware of where their music is going and the journeys it can go off in. I mean, they could be good if they match it with production quality going forward, but until then, they will be far from that. The man formerly known as So Man returns as Killfeed. Nice to see him go down a more incisive, thinned out, outer-worldly route. A couple of decent ideas and sounds on show, but nothing really wowing me here. The percussion in practically every drop is very off. The big exception being the closer Super, the most attention-grabbing. The Mothership also works sonically, but the ideas aren't as ear-catching. I appreciate the change from him, but whether it's adding anything new is another matter altogether. I think this is a pretty solid album, but perhaps not one that I should be reviewing on the channel. A lot of pop-driven D&B, cheery, uplifting vocals, which I expected some of, but not quite so much. There is darker stuff here, don't get me wrong, and it does leave its mark on the LP overall, but it is swamped by the brighter stuff, which isn't a problem, just a heads up for those wanting to check it out. A good album though, and I do recommend it. My favourite would have to be Panic Attack. A solid house mini compilation here from Noir sur Blanc, one of my favourite mini compilations of the year so far. If you're trying to get into house music, I really recommend. A good range of approaches on show, my favourites being the funky numbers from Cramda and Dave Summit. But a lot of good stuff here, and if you like house or are interested in it, give this compilation a listen and drop Noir sur Blanc a follow whilst you're at it. From one compilation to another, the new collection from Parametric Records is a pretty star-studded one for up-and-coming bass producers. Featuring the likes of Taboo and Ravlo, Duke and Jones, Angels, Heritage and many more, and it's pretty good, as expected. A real mix of approaches on show here, from trap to breakbeat, house, freeform, D&B, an easy way to expose yourself to new styles of bass music. And my undeniable favourites come from those four just mentioned, Ravlo and Taboo, Duke and Jones, Angels and Heritage, but a lot of other great material here, so well worth a listen. Check it out if you are yet to. Just another reminder for me of where the quality of Pegboard Nerds' music has gone, how far they've fallen since the earlier years of the decade. Got the brightness, energy and colour on point as per, but ingenuity-wise, there's nothing really making me want to hear this EP again and again at all. Very plain and bland, coming from someone who loves their heavy and chilled stuff, and who has their earlier tracks alongside his favourites ever. I mean, to think about Disconnected, Pressure Cooker, We Are One, Here It Comes, and then this EP, it's just like they've run out of ideas. There's no other way to put it. I really like this EP. The force is good, wild energy, a great range of sounds on show, the melodic aspect plays a significant role as well. Reminds me of the earlier days of Brostep, but with a more modern rhythmy tinge to it. I love all the yoys atop those booming backdrops. Enough moments of contrast as well to keep the attention of the listener. A lot of acidic stuff weighed against the guttural bellows and belches. Points where the execution needs a little sharpening and refining. The ideas drag a bit, but that'll get better over time, and it's one of the better of its kind. I like the energy, verve and grunge of this EP, but a lot of the sound is so scratchy and not well defined. The second drop of Unhinged aside, I wouldn't say many of the ideas are really taking me aback either. The layering of sound is pretty good throughout though, parts that bring a lot together. I rate the ambition, I can't lie, but ultimately many of the ideas don't seem to push far enough. They seem held back and restricted. So yeah, all in all, I appreciate what it's going for, but I don't find it particularly noteworthy or special. As creative, weird, freakish as bass music gets, really. Freeform meets experimental trap, meets a load of horror film samples, it's beautiful. So many sounds on show here, it's hard to keep up at points almost. Hereditary is especially well cut. Definitely moments where I wish they would adhere to a specific motif or idea more, rather than just add another new sound in, more coherency needed. But I think you do just have to marvel at the sonic ambition of it, the worlds they create, so vivid. One of the most adventurous acts in bass music right now, an absolute must listen. Not gonna lie, never really enjoyed slushy stuff all that much, never got the hype, and this EP doesn't change that mindset really. It's all just okay, some of it not even great at all, very ordinary, and I'm not sure what puts him above others, so yeah, meh. I've got to be honest, this isn't the kind of rhythm that gets me jumping out of my seat, but I can definitely see what it's good for. It's rhythm in its strictest form. If you enjoy pretty extensive cuts that keep at a couple of ideas for their duration, then this will be for you. But it's not quite for me. I need more variation here and sharpening of the execution for a lot of it. But these guys are very young and will improve on that a lot over time. And for what it's worth, my favourites come from KC Dubs and Yari. Really good seeing something markedly different to Cyclops Army from Subtronics here. This EP is a lot more toned down from him, and it works as a reminder that he's able to do more low-key stuff. However, I'm not sure any of the songs as wholes work that much for me. It may be because I've gotten so used to his wilder, crazier, louder approach, but this one feels a bit everyday for him, enough flavour, but not pushing far enough with the ideas, and a lot of it feels a bit random. Likely because he set a high standard as well, but yeah, only moments and sounds that I get from this one. No track that I want to revisit from start to finish. Now, we've had Borgor, we've had Bear Grylls, we've had Riot 10, and you know what I think of those, and this Sullivan King ranks right up alongside them. Slightly better, maybe there's a couple of tracks here I can stomach, but for the most part it's pretty horribly mixed and put together. The epitome of it not being about how good a producer you are anymore, more about the image and persona that comes with it. It feels like he didn't think he'd make it in rock, so he went to production school for a bit, learnt a couple of things, built up an image, and hey presto. His voice can be good, the guitar works at times, but beyond that, it's a difficult listen, and another where I find a lot of it objectively, in terms of its production quality, really doesn't work. Very rounded, full-sounding trap EP here. If you're familiar with the music of Something Something, stuff that comes from Quality Goods Records, it's right out that bag. Not a project of outstanding ideas, more an assortment of sounds, but there's a good range to them, and I really like the way a lot of it is cut. And yeah, if you like wavy, bouncy trap with a load of swagger and purpose to it, it's completely for you. A new album from Tice of Noisier fame. Honestly, it's great to see them doing what they want, going about their musical business, not feeling trapped. And the LP is great, loads of atmosphere, soundscapey, classical influence to it, some without a beat, some relatively intense, and even hints of Noisier in there. And I think bottom line is you've just got to check it for yourself. I would prefer the music to do the talking here. I don't know how it's gone so under the radar, but highly recommend. Another powerful experimental dub trap blend here, equal parts bubbly, dark, serious, wavy, freakish, off the wall, utopian, dystopian, conceptual with a provocative pull to it, whilst also appearing quite futuristic. I mean, yeah, there is a lot to it. Another with a big range of sounds on offer, covering several moods along the way. Again, not for standout ideas, but a really good listen. The tracks blending into one another in the best way possible, all on a similar wave, from another world. Penultimately, these rock and roll remixes, I wouldn't say there's anything fantastic here, but a couple of decent tracks out the 10. The E-Craze and Odd Profit I think needs beefing up a bit, but good sounds and ideas, and the More Kismet is sonically pretty mind-boggling, but no ideas really to hold on to. The Oliverse isn't bad. The rest have good moments, but an equal amount of questionable stuff as well, which I suppose is expected by this point. I never get my hopes up, really. And finally, we have the new EP from 12th Planet. And look, I love what he's done in the past, but this is just far too ordinary. Skiddim is alright, Ribbit is a cool idea without the execution. The others are very insubstantial, short, not really built on. I don't feel like the remixes added that much either. The Drayden one is poor, and the Ulasile one isn't bad, it's okay. The vocal sampling is classic of him, and I think it's one selling point, but overall not hitting any sort of mark. And so that brings the October 2019 edition of the Extra Nawties monthly roundup to a close. The special mentions from last month are, and again, there are so many from the last month, 50 or more, so just going to put them up on the screen here for you all to see. Yep, have a little pause if you want to note them down or take a screenshot or whatever. They will be in the description box down below. Actually, no, I've got to learn my lesson from before. They won't be in the description box down below because there are just too many to fit them. But regarding the EPs, albums and compilations reviewed in this video, which ones did you enjoy? Which others not so much? Are there any that I missed out? Let me know in the comments below. Next to my head, there should be another Extra Nawties monthly roundup video to see if you're looking for some more dark electronic tunage to explore. And lastly, if it's naughty, then you know guys, so be sure, as always, to keep it naughty and stay safe. And I shall see all of you legends in the next one. Peace out.